Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so we got a trade to discuss that took place this morning. The Utah Jazz, Clippers, and Heat all came together to make something happen. The Clippers are receiving John Collins, a $26 million deal, player option that he just opted into. Um, what else going on? Norman Powell is headed to the Miami Heat, $20 million one-year deal expiring as well. And the Jazz take back Kyle Anderson, 2-year, $9 million deal, and Kevin Love, $4 million one-year expiring. Kevin Love tweeted this morning saying, "I never thought I would be a solution to a math problem," or something like that. It was kind of funny. It's time to retire, Kevin. That's what that tells me. They're probably going to buy you out over there in Utah rather quickly. A $4 million one-year deal, that's out of here. He ain't going to have no room for an old man in Utah. That's for damn sure. A lot of people are killing the Utah Jazz for the return that they got. I think I have a theory about what's going on with Utah and why they've been quote-unquote losing trades as of late. It's because of the Rudy Gobert trade that they made. I think that everybody was kind of upset at them for making that deal because they took back so much compounded value on top of what Rudy Gobert was. I ain't going to say they took advantage of new ownership in Minnesota. Minnesota just decided to make a decision that was not very valuable, and it kind of messed up the market in a time where, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin Durant had also messed up the market with his trade demand to to Houston. Where do you want to go? You want to go to the Heat or the Suns? And so the market was locked up. And I just think people looked at Danny Ainge and said, "Man, you screwed up the market. We need you to be a little kinder about how you handle taking value and moving value around, because you got so much of a surplus of value in that deal." I think that's my theory. The Donovan Mitchell trade, I thought they took back less than maybe what Donovan was worth. And every deal after that, they've taken back less than what they could have gotten. You look at the Colin Sexton deal, you could say Utah lost that deal. I think another aspect of that could be possible is Utah has so many young players, a tanking team, so many picks because of their own picks being in their hand, and also having the picks that come from Minnesota, which was literally just about everything Minnesota had in their future. To now, it gets to a point where you don't really have room for a lot. When it comes to draft picks, you can stack draft picks, but if you have too many of them, you don't have enough roster spots for them, and you end up giving them away for half the value anyway, which is what we saw OKC do. They started waiving people that you never thought they would waive, things that happened just because they had a surplus of picks. And you can't let those picks dissolve into nothing. You can't hold them forever. Eventually they have to be drafted. And so it's just one of those situations where you're in Utah's place. They have all the roster spots that they need for the most part, filled with young players that they're excited about. You could trade 2-for-1s in regards to young players. Maybe you move, just example, not to say they're going to do this, but let's say you move Isaiah Collier and Filipowski and try to get back a higher level young guy. I don't know. But does that really make any sense in the grand scheme of things? When you're talking about bringing back contracts, definitely doesn't make any sense. They're trying to get rid of contracts of veterans and win now pieces so that they can start their rebuild off right with all these guys being on the same timeline. So it becomes a situation where the Utah Jazz really don't benefit from taking back more values. They don't need more picks. They don't necessarily need win now talent, which is likely more valuable in the market when it's time to move stuff. You're bringing yourself people who are ready to go, who are in their prime in a lot of cases, guys who are ready to win one way or another. You don't really have a space from which to do that. You're not trying to win, and you got all of that you really want. Now you brought in Ace Bailey, you got Hendricks, you got Collier, you got George, you got Filipowski, you got Sensabaugh, they got so many young players that all need to be developed. So it gets to a point, Williams, where it's just like, yo, we don't really need a lot. If anything, we just need to get rid of stuff so that we can create opportunities for all these kids to have minutes and develop in a young environment. So let's get rid of John Collins' contract. He opted into it, of course, naturally, because I don't think he was going to get more than $26 million on the market. Not this year, definitely. Let's move him. And we don't need to be taking back nothing good, because we're trying to move him. It's addition by subtraction for us. Let's get off of this Colin Sexton thing. Why? Because we have a bunch of young guards that need minutes. So we don't need these guys. We don't need to be taking back the most for them either, because the most is going to be stuff that we can't use either. So it's just addition by subtraction. It's a yard sale. And they're selling some pretty valuable stuff for half the price, because believe it or not, they have too much. And they have too much because they took on a deal that no one else probably would have taken. No one else would have had that available to them. And so that's what I think is going on in Utah. It's not that they're too stupid to know that they're taking back less. It just gets to a point where, unlike in the market of finances, the bank is filled up. When you get to a point where you have too much money, I got too much money. That's the Utah Jazz have a plethora of everything. They don't need nothing else. They don't need nothing else. This is not, as simple as, we can just keep on bringing stuff to us. Now it gets to a point where it's like, let's move stuff out the way. Addition by subtraction is the name of the game for Utah, so that I can start developing these players and start, singling out who I like and who we don't. Can't do that if we keep having these vets who are playing for something, playing on our roster. So I'd imagine the marketing's in that same boat. It's time to move him on. Like I said, they're gonna definitely waive Kevin Love. That's a no-brainer. Kyle Anderson, I can see them moving him rather soon. If not, they might waive him. They may just let him sit on the roster as the one vet. But I don't think that benefits them either. They just got too many small forwards. When you talk about Ace Bailey, Taylor Hendricks, Bryce Sensabaugh, right there, you need minutes for all of those dudes, and they're small forwards. So Kyle Anderson don't have a role on this team. I'd imagine they're going to move him rather soon, if they're able to. So that's what's going on with the Jazz. It's addition by subtraction, and they can afford. They're so wealthy in assets that they can afford, if not benefit, from just moving stuff regardless of the price tag. Hey, you want a nice player that we got? Take him. It's not going to be that way for marketing because they're going to want to get great value for a guy like that. But a guy like Colin Sexton, if we take back half of what he's worth, it don't matter. We just want to create the roster spot for our young guys. And same, I would imagine, goes for John Collins. Who do you really want to pay $26 million to John Collins this season if you're the Jazz? No, you definitely do not. Not based on what it is you got going on. That's Filipowski's minutes. I don't need to be giving him no $26 million. So in this situation, this makes all the sense in the world. The return is bad for most teams, but for what the Utah Jazz have going on, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. They can't do much with what they get back any damn way. So if I'm not mistaken, they got a second round pick or something like that. Somebody got a second round pick in this trade as well, some kind of way. But so that's what it is in the Jazz situation. It don't matter what they take back. They just need the roster spot. All right. The Heat get Norman Powell, expiring $20 million contract. I think he's a player where if you like what you see, you're going to re-sign him at half of that. He's probably not going to demand that much on the market anymore. But he is a streaky scoring guy who can really, really help a team. Miami's a team that still wants to make the playoffs in the easy East. So you feel great about the upgrade there. All they did was move Kyle Anderson, who's a nice player, but not that mold. Kevin Love, guy who's about to retire, he ain't helping you anyway. And you brought in a piece that really is going to be ready to explode. And in the Eastern Conference, Norman Powell might be an all-star. Norman Powell hasn't been in the Eastern Conference in a long time, but last time he won a championship with Toronto. So this is a guy who still has a lot left in the tank. He is injury-prone as hell, but when he's out there, he's damn near an all-star. Last year, I thought maybe was his best season. So you're getting him at the right time. A Miami Heat team that can use an influx of talent. They have a lot of win now guys, so it's not like Utah where they just only want to use young guys. Norman Powell is in a position where the Heat, he should fit in their system extremely well, and he fits that caliber of player that the Heat like, that fire in him, that culture, so to speak. He should fit there. And so I love Norman Powell for the Miami Heat. I don't know that it makes the Heat as good as they need to be in the East, but it's a different world in the East right now. You don't even need to be the best team in the East to win. You just got to be in the mix, and things can shake out however they do. Because there's no real front runner in the East. All of the best teams from last year are missing their best players. So that's what it really comes down to. The best two teams in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion, are the Indiana Pacers and the Boston Celtics. Both of their superstars are out. So it's a free-fall in the East. And I think the Heat feel like they got a great chance. They've done well in these situations in the past. And the Clippers take on John Collins. I like the deal for the Clippers. I think there's a great acquisition for the Clippers. I really do. I was listening to Ticket TV. He was saying, well, they got to move. He don't think it's a great acquisition because he thinks they should move James Harden. I don't think those two things equate. I think he's just pushing narratives like he always do. Ain't got nothing to do with nothing. the acquisition of John Collins helps the Clippers significantly because he gives them a premier scoring power forward. I say premier a little lightly, but he's more than capable of putting up 30 points from the power forward position. He always has been able to do that. He's only played in 2 places, kind of wasted some of his career in Utah, just like Jordan Clarkson. You know, guys that played some of their best prime years have been wasted by Danny Ainge, and I've been calling him out for this too. Holding on to these guys for dear life, trying to get the most value for them when you knew this was going to be the outcome from doing so. You're a tanking franchise. You did not need those contract players. You didn't do right by them. They wasted their prime years, man, and so that's really what it comes down to. John Collins had some good years in Atlanta, proved what he can do, and in his prime years was stuck on the Utah Jazz, tanking for like 4 or 5 years. He's been there on this massive contract, getting paid, but stuck in Utah doing nothing while they trying to, you know, build what ultimately they've put together here. Now he finally gets to go to a 3rd spot, a big market, play the Clippers. They just got the new arena, and he's going to fit in as their starting power forward or primary backup guy. If he comes in as a backup, he's a 6th man of the year candidate. Now, I do think the Clippers are going to miss Norman Powell to a degree, but they have a redundancy in guard. They don't really need a guard as much as they probably needed a power forward. They've been running Kawhi Leonard at the power forward, running other players at the power forward who don't necessarily need to be in that position. They got guys like Kobe Brown who could play the power forward but may not quite be ready to step forward. This gives them somebody that they can legitimately put at that power forward spot next to Zubac, who can hit a corner 3 and stretch the floor a little bit, who can catch a lob from James Harden, who can pile on 30 points in a game if Kawhi Leonard misses time, which we know is going to happen. And somebody who just overall helps their team. Now, the next move for the Clippers is to see if Bradley Beal gets bought out, can they win the Bradley Beal sweepstakes? Because we know he wanted to come to the Lakers in trade. That was the only team he was willing to go to trade for a trade. So obviously Los Angeles is where he would like to live. They got a good chance at replacing Norman Powell with Bradley Beal as anybody does, in my opinion. So that's probably what they were thinking. We move Norman Powell, bring in John Collins, who fits a need, and then add Bradley Beal to the situation, and you got a better Norman Powell than Bradley Beal in theory. So that makes a lot of sense if they can get Bradley Beal. Hopefully the Lakers can steal him away and put him on our team. But the fit for the Clippers has now been created for him, and I think he's going to see that. So I think that was the purpose of really doing this, is taking a redundancy if you would have had Bradley Beal and turn him into a position of need, moving Norman Powell being that redundancy, and giving yourself a legitimate power forward that kind of slips other people back into their natural positions. This is a great upgrade for the Clippers. It raised their ceiling, in my opinion. I don't know if I would say significantly, but it definitely raised their ceiling quite a bit. Brought them another go-to scorer, another athlete, lob threat, and I think he's going to help their team a whole lot. I like what they did in that regard in bringing in Yannick Niederhauser as well. He's going to also bring some explosiveness to the Clippers, and that's just a little bit different of what it is that they've had. They haven't really had a whole lot of that, and so to add both Collins and Niederhauser, I think is going to kind of bring back that Lob City flavor that they haven't had since those days. So I don't know if Chris Paul is coming back, but there's rumors that he's probably going to want to come back. I don't know that he'll need more than a mid-level exception to do that. So it could be a significantly different day in Clipperland going forward. I'm interested to see what happens with Jameer Coffey as well. They have yet to sign him. I don't know if he's going to go elsewhere. But when you're talking about losing both Powell and Coffey, now you've removed a lot from your guard position. They also have Bogey in place, so he probably take on a bigger role. If for some reason they don't get Bradley Beal, Bogey's definitely going to have a bigger role. But it's going to be interesting to see if they don't get Bradley Beal, what do they do with their guard position, because they have lost some people. So yeah, that's a curious situation. The Clippers, they did a fantastic job of adding a whole lot of role players last year of a high level, and they're shaking some things up, man. They're shaking some things up a lot, and yeah, I think that if they don't get Bradley Beal, their roster looks a little thin at the shooting guard position if they don't bring back Amir Coffey. Now you're talking about asking Cam Christie to play a little more. Chris Dunn obviously is in place. Derrick Jones a 3, but he can play some 2. But that power forward position has definitely been upgraded, and I think they're better for that. Be curious to see what happens with Ben Simmons if they bring him back. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't heard anything in regards to that. So, yeah, that's what's going on in Clipperland, man. I just think that they've kind of made a little more sense with their roster, but it is a real risk. It's a real risk. I think they have a plan, but if that plan doesn't work out, suddenly you're asking Bogey to play big minutes, and then you're asking guys who may not be quite good enough, so to speak, to play a lot of shooting guard. As to which James Harden to be on the floor more. They don't really have a backup point guard either, if I'm not mistaken. Patty Mills probably got to retire. I don't know if they brought back Nicholas Batum or not. But yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk. But if they get Bradley Beal, it all makes sense. It all comes together, and I think that's ultimately what they're doing. They're trying to get Bradley Beal, maybe Chris Paul, and maybe re-sign Amir Coffey, which I would advise they do. Try to bring about their roster some balance. So we'll see what happens there. So that's the gist of what it is in regards to that trade, and it has been finalized from what I understand. Some more news: Ryan Rollins did return to the Milwaukee Bucks. I was hopeful he would come to the Lakers. Laker fan. We had our eyes on Ryan Rollins. He did take on a 3-year, I think $12 million deal to go back to Milwaukee. I just think he took the money. What it really comes down to, and I don't think he was going to get that much from anywhere else. So I, with everything that they got going on, he should take on a bigger role, and hopefully Doc Rivers will grant him those minutes to really show that he can play. So I think he can, and I think the market was excited about him, and that's what's going on. Ryan Rollins does return back to Milwaukee. So that's the word, man. That's the word. I don't know if there'll be more trades or not, but even as it is, this has been a very energetic, active offseason start for the NBA. Much more active than the last, say, 4 or 5 seasons. So I'm happy with what I'm seeing there. Of course, we're watching Summer League, and we've been talking a little bit about the Summer League with my Lakers, and continue to do that. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got, man. I appreciate everybody for watching BDL 44.